Whenever WWE features a segment of a man attacking a woman, it's always a surefire way to get a reaction, whether that be positive or negative. During the Attitude Era and the Ruthless Aggression Era, men attacking women was often seen on programming, and there was always a decent reaction. However, when the WWE transitioned into a PG product in 2008, the amount of times this happened on programming dramatically dropped. But there were still some moments here and there. But which ones were they? Well, join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at 10 shocking times men attacked women in WWE. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Number 10, Randy Orton hits an RKO on the Fabulous Moolah. Randy Orton has executed an RKO on numerous female wrestlers throughout his career.
Oh my god! RKO out of nowhere!
This include the likes of Alexa Bliss, Beth Phoenix, Stacy Keibler, but one RKO that fans often forget about took place in 2003. On the September 15th, 2003 edition of Raw, the Fabulous Moolah would defeat Victoria in 30 seconds after a distraction from the legendary Mae Young. However, after Moolah's victory, Victoria would attack both Mae and Moolah, but surprisingly, it was a young Randy Orton that made the save for the duo, throwing Victoria off the two legends. However, Orton had another motive. He would begin to shake Moolah's hand,
Randy Orton, legend killer,
and then suddenly out of nowhere hit a devastating RKO on her.
I don't believe you just did that.
Number 9, Vince McMahon vs Stephanie McMahon at No Mercy 2003. One of the most prominent storylines on SmackDown in 2003 was the storyline between father and daughter Vince McMahon and Stephanie. Stephanie was the general manager of Raw at the time, and the villainous Vince didn't like the way she was operating things. This led to the first and only father versus daughter match in the WWE, and it just so happened to be an I Quit match, making things even more brutal. During the match, Stephanie would take a lot of punishment from her own father, which involved Vince choking her out with a steel pipe before Linda McMahon would throw in the towel on behalf of her daughter. As a result, Stephanie would be removed from her post as SmackDown GM and would be written off television for 2 years. Stephanie spoke with FS1's First Things First and revealed that Linda warned Vince not to hurt her. She revealed, "Oh my goodness, well, I did have to wrestle my father in what may be the first ever father-daughter match 6 days before my actual wedding," she recalled. "So that's an interesting moment. My mom was so mad at my dad. She said, if you give her a black eye, if she gets a black eye before her wedding, I'm gonna kill you." So that was a very interesting moment. Yes, an interesting family indeed. Number 8, KANE tombstones Lita. One of the most bizarre storylines of the Ruthless Aggression Era consisted of KANE impregnating Lita after he kidnapped her and declared his love for the former women's champion. The two would even get married in 2004 in what WWE called the marriage made in hell. No, we're not talking about this one. The storyline would get even weirder as KANE would turn into a babyface after Lita turned on him and sided with Edge. The storyline that WWE was going for involved KANE having his heart broken by Lita and that he was on the path to get revenge. The Big Red Machine would finally get his revenge on the 25th July 2005 edition of Raw, as following Edge's victory over KANE in a stretcher match, KANE would sit up on the stretcher, take out Edge, and then turn his attention to his ex-wife Lita. KANE would perform a trademark tombstone piledriver on Lita on the stage, finally getting his revenge and putting an end to the year-long storyline with Lita. Number 7, Baron Corbin hits the end of days on Becky Lynch. As we mentioned at the beginning of the video, it's extremely rare for men to attack women on current WWE programming. However, when it has occurred, it's always had meaning and always resulted in a huge reaction from the crowd.
Oh my god! RKO out of nowhere!
At 2019's Extreme Rules pay-per-view, Baron Corbin would team with Lacey Evans to take on the duo of Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. The highlight of the match was when Corbin would hit his finisher, the end of days on Lynch, and the crowd absolutely erupted to the spot as nobody expected it. This was a mixed tag team match, so the men have to wrestle the men and the woman has to wrestle a woman. But Lynch sold it amazingly, and so did Rollins, who looked absolutely disgusted over the actions of Corbin. Number 6. DDP attacks The Undertaker's wife. One of the more infamous storylines of the Attitude Era was the storyline between DDP and The Undertaker, as DDP would stalk The Undertaker's wife Sarah with the sole intention of making the biggest impact possible. The storyline was slammed by fans who believed it was a complete waste of DDP's talent, and they believed that he should have been used in a different manner. But in one particular segment in their feud, DDP would attack The Undertaker's wife on Raw. This occurred after Shane McMahon and DDP laid out The Undertaker with kendo sticks, and The Undertaker's wife then attempted to make the save until DDP would shockingly hit a diamond cutter on her. Number 5. KANE tombstones Tori. The feud between KANE and X-Pac worked so well because WWE made fans care about every small detail in the world. Traditionally in a feud, KANE would be the big bad heel whilst X-Pac would be the underdog babyface, but WWE decided to switch the roles up. They also introduced Tori into the mix and had her as Kane's love interest, which in turn fleshed out Kane's character and gave him more personality. But the feud escalated when Tori turned on KANE and sided with X-Pac and DX, and this resulted in KANE gaining even more popularity. KANE would eventually get his revenge on Tori on the February 10th, 2000 edition of SmackDown, as he would go to chokeslam Tori, but he would have a change of heart. But this change of heart wasn't in relation to not harming Tori, but instead hitting a tombstone on her. Number 4. The Dudley Boyz attack Mae Young. The Dudley Boyz attacking 80-year-old Mae Young began in May 2000 and became one of the most talked about angles of the Attitude Era. It initially started with them powerbombing her from the top rope through a table. Then the next week on Raw, things were taken to a whole new level. The Dudley Boyz will wheel out Mae in a wheelchair and then proceed to powerbomb her off the stage in one of the most shocking moments in Raw history. Bruce Pritchard revealed on his Something to Wrestle podcast that it was Mae herself that pitched the angle with the Dudley Boyz. Pritchard stated,
"Well, first of all, it wasn't Vince pitching it. It was Vince saying, now, goddamn, hang on, Mae. No, you're not going to go through that table." And Mae saying, "Yeah, fuck you, I am. If you're going to put me out, put me through a table. Let's do something with them safe and fun." Mae wanted to take that bump. Mae wanted to, if you're going to do something with Mae, then by God, you better make it big. I had no problem with it, man. When they did the bubble bomb through the tables and shit off the stage, Mae took that bump by herself without anybody even watching, because it was onto a crash pad, and just went.
Number 3. The two-man power trip, destroy Lita. WrestleMania 17 featured Stone Cold Steve Austin siding with the devil by turning heel and selling his soul to Vince McMahon to win the title. But on the night after WrestleMania 17, Triple H would join forces with Stone Cold, and the two former enemies would form the two-man power trip. This was a huge risk for WWE, as The Rock was going to leave for Hollywood, meaning that there weren't any big baby faces. The two-man power trip would go on to feud with the likes of The Undertaker, Kane, Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit. And to get the heel duo over, they would do such things as beat Jim Ross up and would even target Lita. As following the duo taking out the Hardy Boys, Austin and Triple H would set their sights on Lita. The two men would absolutely brutalize her with vicious kicks and chair shots, as well as a devastating pedigree. Number 2. Chris Jericho legitimately punches Shawn Michaels' wife. In 2008, Chris Jericho and Shawn Michaels were involved in a heated blood feud that played over a 6-month period. At the 2008 SummerSlam pay-per-view, the feud would be escalated to a whole new level when it was revealed that HBK would have to retire due to an injury caused by Jericho. HBK would come down to the ring with his wife Rebecca to make the announcement to the crowd, but Jericho would then interrupt them and actually throw a punch at HBK. But HBK would duck and Jericho would manage to punch Rebecca right in the face. Unfortunately, the timing was completely off, meaning that Jericho managed to hit Rebecca for real. Michaels was reportedly furious at Jericho backstage until Rebecca interjected and said to Jericho, "Is that the best you got?" This eased the tension and allowed the two to continue a healthy working relationship, and the two would go on to have several more classic matches in the years to come. And number 1, Randy Orton takes out Stephanie McMahon. The main storyline heading into WrestleMania 25 was the feud between Randy Orton and the McMahon family. Orton had taken his frustrations out on both Vince McMahon and Shane, but there was still another McMahon that Orton had yet to take out, and we're not talking about Linda. On an episode of Raw leading to WrestleMania, Orton would once again give a beating to Shane, but this was until Stephanie ran into the ring to come to her brother's aid. Orton then proceeded to give Stephanie a devastating RKO, which resulted in Triple H storming down to the ring to save his real-life wife. The violence involving Stephanie didn't end there, however, as fast forward a few weeks on Raw and Legacy would handcuff Triple H to the ropes, and Orton then proceeded to DDT Stephanie. He then decided to kiss Stephanie whilst her motionless body laid there. All of these segments became notable for being one of the best builds to a WrestleMania match in WWE history. But there you have it, folks. 10 shocking times that men attacked women in WWE. Be sure to leave your comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.